welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be making a scrub top for one of our daughters who's a NICU nurse. I've made her a few now and the pattern seems to be working really well for her. I have two fall themed fabrics I'd like to use. I would like to get both of these done this weekend. That's a little bit ambitious. I'm not a sewist as much as I am a quilter, and it is different. I will do my best to record all the steps, and if you'd like to see how you print out a pattern from online and put it together so you can cut out the appropriate pieces, please leave a comment down below and I'll happily do that for you. It is a little bit confusing if you've never done it. It's different than buying a pattern from a store because you actually have to put the entire pattern together before you can cut out what you need. So let me know if you want to see that. Otherwise, let's get started on some scrub tops. All right, this is the fabric I'm going to be using. It's so cute. Look at these little animals. Cute little fall. This is the first one I'm going to do for Sarah. And the pattern that I use is from Craft Book 99. Craft Book 99, all one word, and it has been very handy. There's a few pieces to this. As you can see from the overhead, I have used this a couple times now, and I'm gonna lay my fabric out and I will do one piece at a time so you can see how this kind of comes together. I will start with the bigger pieces, which are actually cut on the fold. So I'll show you what that looks like. So our fabric, when we get it from a fabric store, is already folded, and it has the selvage end. Oh, I should show you what this is called. Forest Feast. Forest Feast. Isn't that cute? Robert Kaufman. Oh my gosh. Kathy Selbert, advocate art for Robert Kaufman. At any rate, when we get it off the bolt, it already has a fold on it, and that's where we're going to be lining up our first pattern piece, is on the fold. So I'm going to lay this out nice and flat. I'm going to try to get you back in frame. And here's where it says this is for the center back of the shirt, the scrub top, and it wants this on the fold. So I'll turn it around and make sure that this is lined up on the fold. And that looks good. This fabric is not directional. I have done one that is directional for her. This one happens to not be, so I don't have to worry too much about you know, if the animal is in the right orientation or not. So for this, I just am going to pin this along the fold, and I will be cutting this out with my scissors. I will not be using a rotary cutter to cut. Again, this is definitely different than quilting. If you think quilters can sew, you may be mistaken. You may find that many quilters that I know will tell you they don't sew. Don't want to sew, don't sew. It is definitely a different skill. Though I sewed quite a bit as a young person in my teens. I even made my own prom dress. So I have sewn, and I used to sew in the military. I would sew our badges and patches and rank and all that on our uniforms. Meaning if anybody that I worked with, if they needed it done, they could just give it to me and I would take care of it for them. So I have always sewn a bit, but I haven't in quite a while, and I thought I saw this pattern and I figured I could do it. So I have been successful so far. All right, so this is the first piece pinned down on the fold, and I'm going to go ahead and pin the next one, and then we'll come back and pin out any pockets and I think there's a neckband I need to pin as well. So I'll just keep going. This is not meant to be a tutorial, so please don't, I mean, I'm just showing you what I do. I am no expert at this. So I just really enjoy making these, and it was fun to go and pick out seasonal type. She's in the NICU, and so can be a little bit more, I don't know, cutesy. I don't know how to say it, but so it's been fun to pick out, you know, different fabrics for her that are a little bit more playful than what I probably use for quilting and the projects that I do. So I'm going to put one pin here. All right, cute. All right, good, good. Let me see. My other pieces that I need for this is I'm going to do, I always put a hip pocket on there, and I need a hip pocket and a simple, this is for the neckband, and I need to cut 2 of these. So I'm going to cut 2 pockets, and I think that's it. Yeah. Oh, sleeve. Well, wouldn't be a shirt without a couple sleeves, or it'd be an odd one anyway. I need to get some sleeves. So I just need to pin this on the grain line, and then, which is running this way, and let's see, with the grain, what was I, oh, and my pocket and my neck. Okay, these are my next 3 pieces. All right, let's try that again. Okay, for the arm, for the sleeve, this is telling me to run it with the grain line just like these are. So there, I believe there's 3 different grains. There's a lengthwise grain, a crossways grain, and then kind of a diagonal grain or a bias. We don't want it on the bias because then it'll be too stretchy. So I will be cutting 2 of these, and I'll pin that as well, and then I'll do the pockets. So let me scoot this down so you can see, and I'll pin this. This does not need to be on the fold, but it does need to run with the grain. So just pinning this one, and I just use enough pins to keep it, you know, still steady. What am I, you know, so I can cut. I'm not going crazy with it. Okay, and then I need 2 pockets. Now I might be a little fussy about the pocket because maybe I want this little guy. I don't know. Let's see. I need to do a neckband on the grain, simple. And yeah, I think I'm going to be a little bit fussy about where I do the pocket, just so it's cute. I'm hoping, depending on where it lays, I think it'd be cute if one of these little guys was looking out of the pocket. But just in case that doesn't happen, I'm not going to plan it so much that I have to look that up. But I do want, oh, they're kind of at an angle. Well, there's a bird. Here's two little birds. I think I like this right here. I have to get it on. Okay, so that would get the little guy. I'm just looking at this section right here, wanting to, maybe I can zoom in. So this little guy, he's got a couple little mushrooms right by him, but I have to go on the grain, so he'll be crooked, but it would still look cute to get it in there. So I think I'm gonna try to get him right there, I think. Oh, I have just enough pins on me. All right. Now, let me zoom you back out. All right, so I've got everything pinned on that I need. These are all the pieces that I need. I think in terms of a sewing pattern, it's a very simple, it's not a lot of pieces. She doesn't use all the pockets that you might see on a scrub top. So I've just been doing hip pocket. I might do an arm pocket on the other one that I want to do this weekend. We'll see. But for now, here's the layout, and I will get cutting. Okay, so I have everything that I need cut, and I'm just going to put my fabric, extra fabric away, and then I can get started over at the machine sewing this up. I'm going to first look for a thread that matches, so when I do top stitching, and this top, you know, we do some top stitching so that it matches nicely and doesn't stand out too much. So that's my next step, going over to the machine, finding a thread, and putting away this extra fabric. I wanted to show really quickly how I decide what thread I'm going to use. I have 3 different browns in front of me. I just pulled the 3 that I have available. They are different, it's hard to tell, but there you go, that's probably right, 3 different. And here's the fabric that I'm using, and honestly any one of those would be just fine. I mean, I could use this color, it's the color of some of the leaves. We would just see the top stitching, right? We would see it, all the top stitching in the shirt. This one, more medium value, again on the brown. area nearly disappears. So we would hardly see that one. Let's check this last one. And then, wow, that one, yeah, that really disappears. So when it crosses over onto some of these lighter leaves, we'll see it, won't see it, though on the majority of the brown. I want to double check this one again. Gosh, I don't know. I think either one of those, as far as not wanting all the seams or all the stitches to show, I think either one of those would work really well. I think I'm going to go with the darker one. Yeah, I'm just going to go with the darker one. But that's what I do. I just essentially audition them, put them on the fabric, and decide what look I'm going for. Maybe I do want the stitches to show, and if I do, I would go, in this case, I would go with the lighter, the gold color. But I don't. I want them to blend in, and I want the star of the show to be the fabric, not my stitching. I want these little hedgehogs and birds and mushrooms to be what you see, not the stitching that I do. So that's how I decide. All right, step one is to add some interfacing to our neck bands. So I'll be doing that over on my ironing board, so we'll switch over there. So here I'm just using my pattern piece to cut the right size for the interfacing before I press it on. So interfacing has a bumpy side, and that's actually the adhesive that will stick to our fabric once I heat it up here. And oh, cute, these are almost identical. All right, so I'm attaching the interfacing using my iron. We want it to get stuck on there good before we move on. We're also going to be using a little bit of interfacing at the deepest part of the V-neck on the front of the scrub top. Interfacing is useful for when you want like a really crisp line. That, you know, you'd want to use interfacing. It gives a little bit more stability, and it'll look really crisp and nice there at the V-neck, right? It's on a V-neck, so it'll have a nice crisp look to it. So that's why we're doing interfacing there. And then it wants me to put, the pattern calls for me to put a small piece on the front, looking for my front, at the lowest part of the V. So I'm gonna get this piece ready. Remove my neckband, and I don't know if you have one of these little wrist guys. They're very useful. I actually have one for my finger as well when I'm doing my hand sewing, but this kind of work I use my wristband. Okay, let me move my pattern pieces out of the way. All right, so the pattern is saying at the lowest part right here of the V, right? Hopefully you can see that. I hope it stands out from the cutting mat. And then these will be put on, right? So it wants a little piece there. I just remembered I skipped one little thing. I'm sorry. I'll be folding these. I know I needed to fold these in half. So let me get that done before I move on. I've done this now a couple times and I don't have it memorized, and I'm not doing them, you know, I wanted to do at least one a month. That has not happened, but as we get into the winter months here, I think I can get ahead I have some cute fabrics for, you know, springtime and Valentine's and all of that. So hope to get ahead and get a few done. I didn't keep up this summer. Usually I'm outside. All right, so those are folded, and then I need a little bit of interfacing on the wrong side of the front in the deepest part of the V. And this does not have to be perfect or great. Just wanna, we're kind of reinforcing that area because we're going to be cutting into it, and you don't want it to fail there at that V. So we'll get that piece on. Again, I'm not trying to make this a tutorial, just showing you the steps. I am trying to get better about recording all the steps that I do, especially when I quilt. I skip over a lot of things, and I'm trying to get a little bit better. So I will be very intentional with this video, recording every step. The next step is to attach the neck bands, and I'm going to be attaching it right sides together with the raw edges together. Now, so this will look nice, I'm going to take it to the machine and do a top stitch across here, and then come back and prep the rest of the pocket by turning in the raw edges and pressing them down, and then we'll pin it onto the shirt itself. But right now I'm just going to do the top stitch. So it's hard to see, but there, maybe a good view of the top stitch. On this pocket, there is a direction for them to go, and this kind of slanted edge will be in the seam. I'm going to be folding back the edges except the seam side and pressing them so we can pin it to the shirt. And I have the pattern piece out, but you can kind of tell where it needs to go because of the shape of the piece itself. But I will put this on just to see if I'm right. Yeah, and it has the pocket going here. That's what I would have thought. Yeah? Yeah, that's where I would have put it. Because of the seam, you can really tell. So I'm just going to pin that in place. And then we will take it over to the machine and sew it. We'll sew everything but this edge here. We'll leave that raw edge and we'll get that caught up in the seam when we sew the two pieces together. This little hedgehog is so stinking cute. The pockets are on, and what I want to show you is here. You see how I went past and took an extra stitch and then back stitched, so this won't, you know, pop off. That's my little tip here. And now our front panel is ready. All right, we're back over at the serger. The next step is to do the overlock stitch around all of the, sorry, not down here, sorry, around all these edges. And on the, both on the front and the back and on the sleeves. So we want to do overlock stitch around everything, and we're going to leave the bottom of the front and the bottom of the back open because this will be a little pleat. So this will take a few minutes, and we are going to be attaching the two panels front and back at the shoulders. I'm going to try to show you, hopefully this will work, how I'm easing that seam. So what I'm going to do is put the bigger side down and get it under my needle, get it started. And the important thing here is to hold firm the point at which you don't want this bigger fabric to exceed, right? So that to me is right here where this joins, and I'm going to be holding this firm and almost tugging it, if you will, to force this fabric underneath to ease in and behave like the top one. I hope that makes sense, but maybe we'll see it. You can see it's happening already. I'm pulling, it's already smoothing out. I'm pulling at my seam that I cannot let it go past, and it's already flattening out. Right? So when they say easing something in, it's doing this. And you can take your time. The feed dogs will be pulling the bottom fabric a little bit faster than the top because the top has no feed dogs, no traction. And I'm holding here at this seam to make sure it behaves. So I'm holding tight. I'm not going to let it go. In fact, right now I'm going to get my stiletto so I continue to hold it tight. And then it will have eased itself in. We can see that from, we'll flip it over. Here, I'll show you. So that keeps it from puckering. We are on to the step, the dreaded step of attaching the sleeves. And I say that because I spent, oh my gosh, a long time one day doing these sleeves. And I finally, I don't even know what happened. I kind of lost my mind. But if you fold these in half, you can see they're different. They don't line up exactly. One is lower than the other. And you'll need to make sure that that lower one goes to the front and the front panel. And it wants you to, like, here's the front panel, right? So you ultimately you're going to be going like this. That's what you want to happen. But in order for that to happen, you're going to be pinning it up right sides together, and nothing matches, and it's wonky and it's crazy, and you can go a little, well, I'll say I went a little cuckoo one day trying to get this. Look at that. You can't line that up. You can't ease that out. So what I ended up doing is running a basting stitch along here, along the top shoulder side, so I could gather it. And once I had it gathered, it pinned in a lot easier. So that is what I'm going to be doing, because that did work really well. I'm going to take it to the machine and do a basting stitch along the top of both of the arms. That way I can get them pinned in easier. A basting stitch is a longer stitch than you normally would use, and you'll just take the thread, hold one end, and you can see it's starting to gather. And that's what I want to do. I want to gather it. I'm just going to ease it up and keep gathering. It doesn't need to be too gathered, but I need that extra help for me. I'm not a seamstress. This is not easy for me to do, sewing shirts, sewing clothes, period. So I can use all the help I can get, and this helps me. So it's going to gather it. This will help when I go to pin it into place. I don't have enough on this end. I'm going to pick a few of those out. Where's my seam ripper? Oh. So I'm just gonna pick, to get me a thread, pick a few of these stitches. And these stitches, because I set the thread length to 3, which is much bigger than my normal stitch length of 2, this will pull, I'll be able to pull this right out. Keeps wanting to break instead of give me some leverage. There we go. That should be enough to get started. Yeah. And then move these pleats up on this side. So hopefully you can kind of see what I'm doing there. It's not going to be this pleated at all. I'm just showing, for example, I'm going to have to work this around the arm, the hole for the arm sleeve anyway. I'll have to work that around as I go, but this makes it a little easier for me to do a gathering stitch. I'm going to do that on the other one and get started. Before I pleated, I should have marked the center of my sleeve. It's on the pattern. I don't normally notch and do those marks, but I do take it to the iron and put a mark so I know where the center is. And I also usually put a pin or something that tells me which part of the sleeve is supposed to go to the front. So I need to regather and then start pinning. I have the sleeves on, and hopefully you can see this. I don't know how I missed part of the seam there, so I'm having to back out, unsew a little bit of my work here. Oh, I see. Yeah, I don't know how I did that, but I sure did. All right, that was the hardest part for me. The hardest part are the sleeves. All right, next. We need to do the hem on the sleeve, right? So we're folding it up 1.5 inches. Then we're gonna take this edge and fold that under 1/2 inch. And then we're left with 1 inch, and we're going to top stitch to get that hem. So let me get to the iron. I haven't sewn yet, but that's what it looks like. So folded it up 1.5 inches and then folded the lip down 1/2 inch, leaving 1 inch, and that's where I'm going to stitch. Well, you can see that. Now that's the sleeve ready. All right, we are cooking with gas. This thing is starting to look like a scrub top. Now we're going to be sewing it all together. I'm going to do some pinning at the intersections here that we really want to line up, and I'm going to sew the side seam and then the other, and leave this little kick pleat, whatever. No, that's not what it's called. Anyway, leave the opening because we're going to make this fold back and make a little hem here. All right, gonna get this side seam done and the other one, and I'm going to be careful to sew. We're going to be top stitching, I should say. We're going to be top stitching, and when we top stitch, we're going to have the inside seam a certain direction. In this case, the shoulder seam is going to go towards the back, and the side seams are going to go towards the back. So when I sew, I just want to be careful of that, knowing that I'm going to have them go. Well, what in the world? That's not a seam. I gotta fix that. Shoot. Okay. We'll fix that little puppy. And that is why I say this is not a tutorial. I am no seamstress by any stretch of the imagination. All right, now we're going to be sewing the sides together and stopping short for this little spot. We're going to do a hem. Looking good. While it's inside out here, I'm going to take a minute and trim a bunch of little threads. Okay, our next step is to do the bottom hem. So we're going to do a double turn hem. Okay, we're going to be doing another double turn hem. This is at the bottom of our tunic, they call it, on the pattern, our scrub top. So we're going to fold up, I'm going to go to the ironing board, I'm going to fold up 1.5 inches and then tuck in 3/4 of an inch, doubling it, right? Double turn, just like we've been doing. So yeah, I'm gonna go get that 1.5 inches done and double turn it and then run a hem. Our bottom hem is done. Just trimming some threads here. All right, the next step will be to top stitch. Like I said, up here, it'll be nice, finish these off nicely. The scrub top is done. So cute. So cute. You can see our little guy on our pocket over here. There's that bias tape that we did. Nice V-neck, and I did a top stitch on everything. to really finish it off nicely, and hopefully it'll last her at least the season. I'm all right with that. My top stitching there. Yeah, I think that's really cute. She's gonna love it. I did not get 2 done this weekend with all my other projects, but I did get 1, and this will be in the mail tomorrow.